Hey everyone. Today I've kind of got something in the I don't really know what to make of it category. It's quite old, I would say 1950s or earlier. I know it's a drill, but I don't know exactly what its purpose was. Very light duty, I would assume. I don't know really who made it or anything like that. It's pretty worn out and it's in pretty rough shape. Let's take a look and let's see what we can do with it. So here we have, it's very, very small. Look at how small this thing is. It's got an interesting push button trigger. It does have some information that I can read. It says all timer, and it says, I think, drill major. There is somewhere a something which I can't really read. Electric drill division. I don't really know. Sorry, the camera keeps wandering. Because I'm not looking at the camera, I'm trying to read it. And it says AC, it looks to be AC-DC, which is really interesting. Look at this cord. It's a two-pronger, really old cord. This, I would guess, is the original cord. This kind of makes me think it may be even older than 1950s. Obviously, we won't be testing this thing without rewiring it. The model number is a 549. I'll have to look this up to see what that really means. And maybe that's a clue and I'll be able to identify who ultimately made this. Comes apart, a couple flatheads, and cap nuts. The chuck is locked, and actually it looks like somebody tried to break it free and actually took it apart by accident. Hopefully all the pieces are, well, there's really only two other pieces, but hopefully it's all in there. So, I'm really curious. I don't know how nice we can get this thing to look, but if I repaint this and this red and polish this, in spite of the faded tag, I think it'll look okay, and we can clean up the chuck. So, yeah. Let's get busy. All right, the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to see how difficult it is to change this cord. It looks like it just wires right into this switch here, and it doesn't look like it's difficult to get that off. This actually, I just need a pair of pliers probably to twist that, and the switch will come out. And this is just two flathead screws for this plate, I guess. Yep. Yeah, the plate's already loose. Well, one screw came out real easy and one doesn't. Hopefully there's some extra wire in here. Oh yeah, okay, so this wire appears to be in good shape, and it looks like at some point somebody spliced another cord onto this. Should we do the same, or should we look at the switch? Let me get a pair of pliers, spin that, and I'm saying we look at the switch, because I'd much rather wire direct than do that. I guess the problem is that this thing is warped, and the threads on this thing are kind of gnarled. Okay then. That may make up our mind for us that we're just going to tap into these wires just like the other guys did. We got plenty of wire here. It's odd because it should be really easy to take this off, but it's not. The switch is moving in there. Okay, well, let's just hope the switch is good, because I could wrestle with this forever. Let's peel back this electrical tape and see what's in here. If I can find the beginning of it. Tape doesn't even feel that old. It's still pliable and sticky. Did they solder it at least? Look at that, they didn't even solder this. I don't see any evidence that they did. It's just twisted together. Wow. That is a less than ideal repair. We'll do better. Hi, Mugs. All right, I found a good power cord. It's not particularly long, but it is a 2-prong. It's got a lot of heavy insulation on the outer wires. Probably don't need this much wire to connect. Hopefully it'll fit. It should fit through that. So I'm just going to shorten these guys up. Let's cut this. Realistically, I don't need much at all. I do not believe this thing has any any polarity sensitivity here, so it's not really going to matter where we attach these. What we are going to do, though, is we are going to put shrink tubing on this cable. To go over our solder joints. Do not need all of this. It's a bit long. That's okay. We'll wrap it first. Oops. A little bit out of order here. I haven't run it through the base plate. You know what? Let's let me hit the wire brush and clean this piece up. If this grommet will come out. Boy, that grommet is hard as a rock. I'm gonna hit it with a wire brush. I'll be back. Okay, I cleaned it up. Got the the grommet out. Let's find a replacement for it. Probably this size. Not an ideal strain relief, and I'm not sure if this is all that was there to begin with, But that's one of the reasons why I'm using this thick cable. Not that I expect this will see more use in its life. I really don't, because it seems to be such a light duty drill that it's just not going to get used a lot at all. Alright, so that's that. That goes through there. Good to go. Now we can wrap these and solder them. Alright, interestingly, in my Spartan toolbox was some solder paste. Let's see if it's any good. Looks to be a brand new container if I can get it open. Well, it's not great, but it'll work. I have no idea what all this stuff is, but it'll make it a little bit easier for the solder to stick. Okay, I'm going to backtrack a bit here for as a safety precaution. I'm going to undo this. I am going to put a very thin bit of shrink tubing on this wire to seal it up. Off for a bit. I think we're done with soldering for the day. Okay, we're good. I'm gonna clean these two screws up just a little bit. These screws are so small, I don't even know if I could clean them up with steel wool, because I don't know if I could hold on to them very well. So I'm just gonna go with sandpaper. close up, if you can see it. Before, after. It's mostly clean. All right. Now it occurs to me that all of this will have been for nothing if that switch is bad. There will be nothing I can do about that because it's going to take an effort to get that switch out. Hopefully I can pack all this wire back in. I mean, I gave it a lot of extra just in case it ever has to be rewired again. I've got that backwards. Okay, we'll get that. It's now rewired. Provided this switch is good, we can do a quick test. I won't run it for long because who knows what the grease in here is like. But I am curious. Let me put my glove on. Plug this guy in. And hopefully that switch is good. If it's not, we'll... Whoa. Well, it doesn't sound very healthy, I'll tell you that, but it does work. Okay, that's all I needed to do. Switch is good, we're wired. It sounds horribly dry. Let's see about getting this front off. And seeing what we can do. Yeah, this is the right size, but I can't seem to get on this other one over here. This whole thing gonna fight me? Sometimes they do. They fight you all the way. I don't know why this wouldn't want to let me on here. Okay. Don't know how I'm gonna tighten it back on, but let's see. I'm gonna be very careful sliding this cap off. Well, there is grease in there. That's good. And it's not completely dried. That's also good. It doesn't turn that great. But let me get a bag, some paper towels, and we're gonna dig the grease out. All right. Follow my lead here. If you're gonna be digging grease out, always wear rubber gloves because the stuff stinks. And it gets on you and doesn't want to leave for quite some time, actually. And I got a bag to deposit the grease. Yeah, let's dig it out. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's not a good sign when it comes to grease. If it all comes off in a big chunk like that. I have a feeling, judging by the sound of this, that this thing is completely worn out. The bearings are gone. But we'll grease it up and see. Okay. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some oil. Looks like that might be an oiler line, interestingly enough. Because think about it, what else would this be for? This is a hole. Don't think I'm going to be able to get any oil to go in there, not without some luck and some cleanup. Okay, let me get my oil can. Okay, first I'm going to clean this thing up with contact cleaner before I try to shoot new oil into it. We got a lot of dirt out of that. A lot. Well, it spins easier. That's a good sign. Very good sign, actually. It spins a lot easier. This isn't lube, this is just cleaner. Pretty good. Okay, let's oil it. So I'm going to put some oil directly on here and let it run in. And I will also attempt to run some oil down the tube. And there's a second oil tube here, by the way. It worked. We got some in. Okay. We have second oiler tube there. I don't really know that I need to take the back of this off. So I'm just going to try to get oil in there. Certainly spins a lot easier. Okay. Now, an interesting point that I just realized is this would be a lot easier to paint. If I paint this, this will be a lot easier to paint with this piece off of it. I can polish this piece completely on its own. And then I only have to, well, this badge probably comes off. This is copper. How cool would it be to get all this paint off this copper piece and polish it up? I think it's copper. Certainly looks like it. Yep, it's copper. I may want to take this paint off and polish this copper. That would look pretty cool. It'll look better than red. All right, but for now, let's put this guy together. We don't want to go too tight just yet. All right, let's see what's going on in this chuck. Wow. This is actually a rubber piece. And wow. All right, let's just clean it. Wow. I don't know. This is not a heavy duty drill, let's say. I'm just going to put some oil in there. So I'm trying to figure, I guess you loosen it and that would allow you to basically stick whatever you want in there and then tighten it. But it doesn't automatically separate. I guess maybe the rubber had some spring to it at some point. It no longer has that. All right, our contact cleaner is probably out. We're gonna use dry lube in the motor itself. Again, I always say this, do not use regular WD-40. This is specifically meant to oil motors. Muggsy's sitting right over there, so I gotta walk off camera for a minute to spray this stuff in. Don't want to get it near him. Okay, let's do a recap. We got it oiled, greased, running like a top, and now comes cosmetics. Pretty straightforward. This is a clean up and polish aluminum, clean up and polish aluminum, clean up. I don't know how clean that'll get, but that'll be a little bit more work because it's actually an old school version of a keyless chuck rather. But this. So I'm thinking here that if I clean this red paint off and polish up this copper, this thing is going to look like a radical, much more radical. It's going to look very steampunky. It's a lot of red paint to clear up, and I got to be very mindful of this tag because it looks like the tag comes off there. I'm not quite sure how I would get it off. I'm going to play with it a bit and see if I can, because if I can get that tag off, it's going to be a lot easier to clean up. But I think I'm going to, rather than paint this red, I'm going to clean it up, take all the paint off, and make it copper. and then polish the whole unit as one. Next step, I don't want to put paint remover to get this red off. So I'm actually going to try it with the wire brush. I'm just going to make sure I avoid hitting this and taking any more off than is already there. And I can get the bulk of this red off, I think, with a very light wire brush. I'm going to focus on right here, right above this. The oiler's there, that. We're just going to hit it lightly and see what it does. Okay. That's how we'll do it, because I barely tapped it. That paint came right off. So I'm going to wire brush the whole thing. All right, so here's something interesting. The back appears to not be copper. What do you make of that? How strange is that? Unless this is just a copper plate, but it didn't come off anywhere here, but it's not anywhere there. All right, so here's what we're left with. This is metal, so I should probably repaint this. This is copper, so I should polish that with the rest of it. We can now read the Jacobs chuck and the patent number on the chuck. So I guess we'll go to let's clean up the metal. This will be a little easier to paint. Just be taping this up. So let's polish the rest of it up. Okay, so we're going to do the WD-40 cleanup here, and then we're going to move on to metal polish. So the first, I'm going to use WD-40 and a Scotch-Brite pad. We want to avoid getting it in the motor. Okay, this is an old can, but it's still spraying somewhat. Avoid this green on this. Not that there's much there, there isn't, but I don't want to take what's there off of it. Alright, let's wipe it down, see how much gunk we got off of it. quite a bit. I think we can still do more with the WD-40 before we move on to the polish. But you're now starting to see the scratches and things like that in the drill. This can has pretty much had it. Let me get another can. Looks like I spun that a little bit too much. This chuck is, let's say, not the greatest design I have ever seen. All right, that's that. And now I'm going to hit it with heavy metal polish and steel wool. Take your steel wool, round it up. All right, let's move on to the front, and we can polish the copper at the same time, but I'm gonna put some painter's tape on that. Truth be told, this emblem is in such rough shape that I'm not being particularly careful with it, because it would probably look better if I just wiped it clean and took the ink right off of it, because you can't really discern what it says anyway. All right, no, that'll protect it as much as I'm going to. I hope the copper cleans up nice. It should. All right, we got a big spot on the copper. Let's see how well this is cleaning it up. And how much work this is going to take. Well, I mean, other than a few spots, the copper's cleaning up really well. We got to think about this for a bit. The metal is ready for a polish coat, or we'll use the Scotch-Brite for the first coat of polish. Copper, not so much. Okay. All right, well, next step is I'm going to use a Scotch-Brite pad and polish, and we'll see how well. And then the last step is we can either use the sponge on this thing or a rag and do that. We're going to use the light bright metal polish for that. See, it's already turning gray. It does keep going. As I always say, it's as much as you want to do. our last coat of polish. We'll be done with a rag, and we're going to use the light metal. And this will be it, and then we'll paint. The copper, it's about as clean as it's going to get, unfortunately. That corrosion is deep, and this appears, if I'm not mistaken, to be copper plating. And so I don't want to go any deeper. I'm just going to take it down to bare metal. Why that would be copper plated under paint, I don't know. And I'm sure whoever designed this has long since moved on to the next life. Stuff is so thick. I don't know why they put it in a bottle like this. It'd be much easier to just put it in a paste bottle or paste can. I can't use this finger because I got a piece of steel wool stuck in it. Alright, let's wipe it down. And then we'll do the front, and then that's it for the polishing stage. I'm not going to take this thing any further than this. Look at that. Not bad, huh? So there's a difference between the bright metal and the other coats of polish that we put there. Let's do the front. I guess we'll do a little bit on the copper here too. All right, let's mask it up for the red paint. Let's see if you can see it. That's why I say when you're doing the polish with steel wool, always wear gloves. I don't know if you can see that. I got a piece of steel wool embedded in my finger right there. And yeah, it's not particularly painful. It's just like getting your finger pricked to draw blood. It just keeps poking you over and over again. All right, did this protect that green, or did this take the rest of the paint off? Yeah, looks like it protected it. All right, let's mask off this red spot, which interestingly, I could have polished this as well, but this looks like it should be different because it's a completely separate piece, and since it's not copper, I think it's a good idea to do what we're doing and bring the red paint back into it. That's what I mean. Oof, it can stab you. All right, I gotta use some acetone on here to get this cleaned. But let's take my sandpaper here. Kind of hit these rougher spots a little bit. All right, let me get some other tape and some acetone, and I'll be right back. Pardon the shaky camera, but there you have it. That is what was stuck in my finger. I used some tweezers, and I got it out. Not much, but it hurts. We are masked up, and get my glove on. I'm gonna wipe it down with acetone. Only the spot, of course, that we are going to be painting, just to get residual polish off of it. And in this case, I know in some of the tools you've seen me do, I did not prime. In this case, we're good to go with primer, because I'm not taking any of this paint off. So I'm gonna hit it with, we're gonna use just regular automotive primer. And then rather than use the Rust-Oleum High Performance Red, I'm gonna actually use a matte red first. And if this doesn't look good, I'll go over it with the red High Performance Enamel. But I gotta come up with some type of jig to hold this once I put a coat of paint on it. I'll be right back. Okay, that's how I'm gonna be holding it. I'm using a drill press vise, and this way I can prime it and then drop it right in the vise, and then when that dries, I'll paint it and drop it back in. Stay under here, hopefully you can see it. I honestly don't know what you can see. I think pretty much in range. So the primer, fortunately, will let me know if I missed any oil. I'm trying not to get it in the holes, but it's kind of unavoidable in some ways. But you can certainly minimize it by angling it the right way. Actually looks good. I don't see anywhere where the paint's bubbling up. So we'll let that dry, and then we'll hit it with some red. I'm just gonna, this is actually quite easy to paint, this guy. No problems at all. So while that primer dries, which should only take a few minutes, I'm gonna put some stuff away. Okay, ready to paint. Again, I'm using this Fusion matte red pepper, simply because I think it's gonna look more antique. I think. That's one pretty good coat right there. I'm gonna let it, I'm gonna kind of twist it, keep it moving in case I did put it heavy, just so it doesn't drip anywhere before I put a second coat on. This looks like it'll only take 2 coats. Really, it's pretty much there. I'm just gonna put a second coat on it because it looks good. good. Got 2 coats. And now I basically have to let it dry overnight, or at least for several hours before I try to take that tape off. And then, until then, we can't really get a look at how good this is going to come out. So, I'll be back. All right, there it is in its holder. It should be good to go till either late tonight or tomorrow, whenever I decide to take the tape off. Probably tomorrow. Looks good though. Well, it's been several hours. Everything should be quite dry. All right, here we go. Looks pretty cool. I'll take a picture of it tomorrow in the sunlight. Looks pretty good. All right, I noticed in my final cleanup while I was working on this that this cable has some play in it, which means it could potentially be pulled out of the drill. So what I'm going to do really quick is I'm going to put a tie wrap on the end of this, right around here, and that will stop it. If I pull the tie wrap tight enough anyway, it'll stop it from being pulled further out. Just make sure this won't slide on the cable. Yeah, that's in there good. We'll leave a little bit on this end, and then we'll put it all back in place. It's a detail on a drill that's not going to be used. Because I really can't see a situation where I'm gonna ever want to break this drill out and try to use it. It's cool looking and all, but this is definitely a working museum piece. It will not be going into service. All right, so that's it for this kind of laser gun oddball drill. I will leave you with this. If you do restore one of these, don't put it to any use. I don't think these are a great design. I think the chuck is a terrible design. And I don't think this thing is electrically safe. Even though I rewired it, I'm fine with it. But this is just not a good motor housing. It's just not a good design. I don't think it was built to last. I think it was pretty much a throwaway product even in its day, which was not the days of throwaway products. That's just my opinion. Maybe you've got your own opinion on what these things are. Leave it in the comments if you do. But anyway, that's what I wanted to say. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I've always got more content like this coming. I've got some more actually better quality drills coming because I found a whole stash of them at the flea market, and I'll be restoring those as time goes by. And you know, if you want to take on something like this, I don't recommend you take it on to use it, but if you want to restore it and get a nice looking museum piece, don't be intimidated. Just go out, get busy. Take care.